Welcome to my talk today. My name's Linda Hammond and we're going to be looking at how to use a mind map to help you plan your village or one place study. Now, I realise that many of you may never have come across mind mapping before, or at least not in the context of genealogy research. So I'm going to give you a very short introduction to mind maps. So what is a mind map? Well, here's an example of a fictional John Smith along with all the information we might know about him. It's a very simple mind map just to illustrate the idea in case you've never seen one before. So our central node contains his name, and then each of the subnodes is a different area of research. So birth, marriages and deaths, census, military, occupations and directories. Each of those subnodes is then broken down into further branches to give more specific detail. So for births, marriages and deaths, we have one for births, marriage and death, and for census, say the 1891 census, 1901 census, etc. Now, as you can see, one of the huge advantages of this is that you can see all the information in one place, making it so much easier to analyse evidence and extract all that data. The great thing about mind maps is that you can add to them and move things around so easily. So when you find more information, you simply create a new branch, add in the extra node and all that detail here. If later in your research you find some information actually proves not to be correct, you just simply delete it. Mind maps are really so flexible. They can also be used for a variety of purposes at all different stages of your genealogy research. So whether you're starting out just planning some research and you want to make sure that you cover all the sets of records that are available. If you're analysing a person, maybe you're looking for any gaps. Is there anywhere you're finding some problems, finding something out about somebody? Are there any gaps in your research plan that you might be able to find? Maybe you're analysing a document. You might have a will, for example. You want to take all that information out, have it in one place and know that you've found all the details you need off there. You've extracted every piece of data. Breaking down a brick wall, don't we all have those? Mind maps are excellent for breaking down brick walls and they really can speed up that process. Planning a research trip now. You might not be jetting off, you might be just going down to the local archive. But whatever type of trip it is, you want to make sure that you've got a really good plan in order before you start and that everything you need is ready. And lastly, carrying out a house, or as we're looking at today, a village study. So let's briefly look at how we actually draw a mind map before we see how to put one into practice. Now, mind maps can be created by hand with pencil and paper. And I often do this when I know I just want to create a small map to sort out a problem or just to take some notes. However, the limitations of pen and paper are that you can't move branches around easily, nor can you plan your space to allow the addition of new branches. Now, there are numerous mind mapping programs out there, but they all work in a very similar way. So, you draw your central node. And in this case, mine is Samuel Marsh, as you'll see. And I'm analysing a document, which is a settlement certificate for him. So by pressing Tab, I get a new branch created, which I can label up. And then Tab again produces another branch to extend that out. If any branches need more information, I just press Return, and I get another branch on the same node. It's really simple. Now, the great thing about software drawn mind maps is that the software automatically rearranges the nodes, as you can see, to allow them to fit in perfectly on your page. Should I want to actually rearrange a branch, I still can do that. I just click and drag. Now, as you can see here, I've managed to extract all the information off that settlement certificate and onto my mind map. Now, this is not data that would be necessarily easy to enter onto your typical family software program, and it also means I've got everything in one place. It makes it much easier to see all the evidence, to analyse it and to make use of all that new found research. So if you're carrying out a village study, you want to make sure that you find all the sources you possibly can to enable you to make a thorough study. And a mind map will help you explore those sources and keep on track with your research. Now we all know that a one-place study involves a wide selection of records, and keeping track of your research and knowing what records you have already searched can be difficult. Now, you can use a spreadsheet and that may well work for you, but personally I find a mind map is a better solution, and I would suggest you give it a go. So let's take a look at a mind map I've created to help with a village study project. So here is my mind map. Now, obviously, the central node will not say village study on yours. It will be the name of the village or the town that you're studying. You can then break down each area with your subnodes, as I have here with the pink boxes. So we have the population, directories, occupations and industries, churches, etc., the way around to land records, photographs. If you wanted to, you could colour code these in different ways, so perhaps by type of record, for example. But for now I've just kept a very simple colour palette. You can then subdivide these areas again, as I've done, with the yellow boxes. So for example with churches you might be looking at parish registers, the graveyard, monumental inscriptions, the war memorial or church warden's accounts. Things like taxes, it might be property records, half tax, poll tax, land tax assessments. And then you can break these up even more, as I've done with the little blue boxes, you'll notice. So if we look at, say, for buildings, we've got the school and types of records we might look at there, the shops or the public houses. Now, obviously, this is not a complete map, and there are certainly more nodes that could be added on, but it's just to give you an idea of how you might start. So let's take a closer look at this mind map. So here are the first three nodes. So population, directories, occupations and industries. Now remember, as I said, this is not a definitive mind map. When you create yours, it will be individual to the place you're studying, but this just gives you an idea of what you could have. So for example, where we have buildings here, we've got schools, shops and public houses. You might have a manor house, so you can add in another branch from manor house here. You're also definitely going to want to extend out some of these branches as you find more information. So for example, prominent families, you'll probably have a branch for each prominent family name. The next branches we had on this side were churches, parish records and newspapers. Again, you may have other branches you can add, you may want to add, or you need to lay it out a little differently. For example, in churches, there may be more than one church in your village, so this wouldn't really suit. You'd need to have church number 1, church number 2, and then each of these attached to the 2 churches there. Parish records, you might have, let's say, some settlement certificates and examinations, so you need to add another node here. You might have a local archive that's got some apprenticeship indentures, and you can just pop it on to this one here. All those can be simply added to the relevant node and just expand out that section. Then on the left-hand side, we had events, books and maps. So as you can see, you're able to include so many things related to research in your village, even those which aren't necessarily strictly archive documents. So as you locate books or local studies, you can add their details here, so the name of the book and the author, even maybe the location if it's in a particular library or if it's online or in an archive. And as you locate maps, you can add their details to this mapping area here. So you might find that you've found some, let's say, estate maps or enclosure maps or even some town plans, and you can add these in and then the details of where they will be located. So each of them can be added in really simply. Now for me, as I said before, this is where a mind map is easier to use than a spreadsheet for this type of research. Slotting in a new record set or an archivic session onto a mind map doesn't mean you've got to move columns and rows around. You simply click and you add it in. And lastly, we had photographs, land records and taxes. Now remember, this is just an idea on how to start your mind map. The idea is that you extend out these branches to help you locate records and keep track of your research. So going beyond the main nodes and subnodes, what sort of information would we have here? So you can add in databases such as Ancestry or Find My Past, etc. You can add in an archive name or an archive website. And this way you can plan most of your research in advance and see what's available. So if you go to a website and look at the archive catalogue and it gives you sets of records, say for local tax, you can add these as another node to your mind map. You can even add in accession numbers or reference numbers that will help you locate those records. And remember, Once you've finished your mind map, you can then use this as your research plan and mark it off as you complete the tasks. If you do come across more records or even more areas that need research, you just simply add them in at a later date. That's the great thing, as I say, about mind maps. They really are so flexible. So back to our original mind map, and hopefully you can see how this could be expanded on to create a really useful plan and tool where you can have all the information you need at hand. You can then, as I said before, use this plan and perhaps colour code the boxes or change shapes of boxes to suit how you like to work, and you can show how you've completed an area of research. That way you can quickly see what records you found, which ones you've accessed and recorded, and those where you still got to locate or search. It'll show you gaps as well. You can quickly see where things might be that you need to look for. Mind maps are great to have with you when you're looking through archival catalogues for noting down record details and accession numbers ready for the archive visit, and they're great to have with you in the archive to see what you've already covered. Then when you're at home, you can go through all those newfound bits of research, and they allow you to see where there might be gaps in your research and prompt you going forwards. So I hope I've shown you today how useful mind maps can be. It really has been a very quick whirlwind tour because there are so many different ways you can use them, and this is just one of them, but we've just taken a quick look today. If you do want to find out more about mind maps, then I've just written a book entitled Mind Mapping Made Easy for Family Historians, which is available through Family History Books, so familyhistorybooksonline.com. It should have been published by now, but at the time of recording, we were just putting the finishing touches to it. It's very reasonably priced at $9.95, and you'll find it guides you through all the steps for drawing your own mind maps. It gives you loads of ideas of ways to use them all the way through your research process. It shows you the advantages of employing mind maps and how they really can keep you on track and speed up your research as well, which is something we all want. It also gives you suggestions and examples for different mind mapping software packages, including many of which are free to use as well. So I'd like to thank you for joining me today. I really hope I have inspired you to give mind mapping a go. It is a brilliant tool to have in your genealogy toolbox. It helps in so many different ways. You can use it in so many different ways, and it will transform your genealogy research techniques. Remember to have a look out for my book at familyhistorybooksonline.com, which will give you lots and lots of practical ways to use mind maps in a nice, easy, step-by-step illustrated guide. So once again, thank you for joining me today, and I really hope I've inspired you to give mind mapping a go.